Hello and welcome to the Not For You podcast. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Definitely not for you. So, hoping everybody had a happy new year. This is the first episode of the Not For You podcast. And like I said, maybe it is or maybe it's not for you. Either way, give it a listen, see what I'm talking about, and you get to make that decision. So today is January 2nd. I hope everybody had a great new year. Every year, everybody tries to make these new year resolutions about what they should do, what they shouldn't do. And that's all good. And that's up to you. But for me, we do a 90-day challenge at the gym every year. And today marks the 90 before the 90. So this is the 90 days before the 90-day challenge, which is kind of like a preseason to the season. And this is the time that I really think people should start deciding on what they want to do with their challenge, what ideas they want to start their process, because it's very difficult to just start the process on day one of the 90 and expect all these changes and all these things to happen right off the bat, because the quicker it starts, the quicker it finishes, right? If you say, I'm going to quit drinking, smoking, eating dirty. I'm going to work out every day. I'm going to do this and that. Well, you probably can for 90 days, but anything that extreme might come to an extreme end I've seen in the past. So we want to kind of take the slower route, the more I'd just say, yeah, slower, and over time I've seen it as the smarter route, because you don't want to put so much pressure on yourself. The key is to enjoy this and work towards these changes. So usually when you want to make a change, you know exactly what it is, the thing that needs to change. You'll ask yourself, what in my life do I need to stop doing or continue doing? And usually the first thing you think of is that thing. We try to push around and say, no, well, I'm this and that, or I'll start that now or that. As long as you know what that thing is and you're being honest, you've started your process, right? You might try to quit something like drinking or smoking, and it's not, let's be honest, it's not easy. But the moment you put that thought that you want to make that change, you've started the process. And the process is all about understanding what triggers you and what is like setting up for you to make mistakes. So unless you make mistakes, you can't really learn on what it is, those things that happen. It's really pattern recognition. So the 90 before the 90 is about really trying to just focus on one singular thing instead of so many things, the bigger issue, so that when you come into the 90-day challenge, you have more of a clearer mindset and you can be more focused on achieving your new goals instead of being so focused and so tough on yourself about the first initial thing, because we are our own toughest critics. We do beat ourselves up a lot if you don't accomplish the thing. If it's a week and you want to quit eating sugar and you got a donut that first week, and then you're like, well, it's over now, I might as well just keep on eating donuts. And no, it's not like that. Start asking yourself, what happened? I did so good for 5 days. What happened that I ate that donut on day 6? And you say, well, it was the weekend and I was just bored and I just wanted to reward myself for being so good, but now I feel bad about it. So you have to realize, okay, well, let's see what happens next week. And then if it happens again, you start recognizing the pattern. Every Saturday after I get out of work, I have this stretch of time where, one, I don't have things for myself to eat properly, and two, I'm bored. I have time. So you start recognizing these patterns of where you're falling and making these mistakes. So you start stocking up on Friday. Now you go to the supermarket on Friday and you start stocking up healthy options, and you make plans with somebody after work on Saturday. So you're not just sitting there thinking about doing the thing that you shouldn't be doing or the thing you don't want to be doing. So when that comes, you are ready and you're, wow, I made it to Sunday. And then Sunday hits, and then you go, well, Sunday evening, I feel kind of lonely. I wanted to reward myself for being so good. So then you start seeing the pattern. I make it through now 6 days instead of 5. And then when Sunday comes, now this happens and I feel lonely and I end up going to the store and getting myself ice cream or whatever it is that you do, or I end up pouring myself a drink. And if this isn't what you want to be doing, but for some reason you find yourself stuck in these patterns, that's good. You're recognizing the patterns, you're seeing the patterns. It's all about pattern recognition. So the 90 before the 90 is really about pattern recognition and understanding how to create new patterns so that when the 90-day challenge does start, it's not just boom and then you're making all these mistakes. So the 90 before the 90 is your time to make mistakes, understand your patterns, and try to make those changes. And maybe it's not for you, or maybe it is. So you got to figure out what's for you, what's not for you. They say, I've heard it, if you listen to these motivational speakers and all this stuff, you hear continuing people just regurgitating things that you've already heard. And I'm going to do that for you now. So they say if you boil a pot and drop a frog in the pot of boiling water, the frog jumps right out. But if you slowly turn the heat up on a pot of water with a frog in there, you can boil them to death. So that's kind of like the 90 before the 90 is where you're not just jumping right into it to where it's going to be so difficult. You're going to feel I messed up in the first week. It's not it. This is a slow burn, a slow start to where if you make mistakes, you start recognizing the patterns, you can start fixing those things. And it's not easy. For me, I realize if I go into 7-Eleven every morning to get my cup of coffee, that even though maybe I try to stop eating the sweets or the food that they have there, the processed food, eventually I've been good. Week 2 comes around and all of a sudden the glaze of that donut, the light hits the glaze in the right way and hits me in the eye and catches my eye. And I say, you know what? Let me get that donut. And then I eat that and it was so good. The next morning I come in again and I get a cup of coffee and I say, all right, let me get another donut with that. And next thing you know, every day I come in, I have to have a donut, I have to have a pastry, I have to have something with that cup of coffee. And what's going on here? Why am I doing that? Or they bring a new thing out on the counter, a new Reese's Pieces cookie thing. And listen, I could eat that stuff. It's not a problem for me. Physically, mentally, it's just I know it's not good for me, and I'm trying to make those positive changes with myself. So I'm saying, what's happening to me that I'm getting weak? And I'm realizing, let me buy coffee for myself and keep it at home. This way, I'm not entering the facility, the places that have these things that are tempting me. So all of a sudden, I'm realizing it's kind of an environmental thing. If I put myself in a room with donuts, I'm going to have a donut. Like they say, if you go to the barbershop enough, you're going to get your hair cut. So if you recognize every time I go out to the bar, I have a drink and I don't want to drink, well, then it's pretty simple. Don't go to the bar. So for me, I realized if I don't want to eat this crappy food, I have to start to get my coffee at home, make it at home where don't have that stuff lying around where I'm not going to go, oh, what is this? Because, I'm just like everybody else. You see the shiny new wrapper, you see that bringing the new trucks, you smell the food, and it gets very hard. So if you put yourself in these positions, which you'll start to recognize after enough trying to make changes of the patterns, you'll make a change in the patterns. And then what do you know? I made coffee at home for a month and I didn't have any of that sort of stuff. Now I'm starting to feel good. I'm on a different level. I'm seeing a little bit of changes going on physically, mentally, and I'm understanding that I have the strength to make these changes and that I can make these changes everywhere in my life, not just with food, but it also transfers to other things. And the same thing goes for positive things, right? If you want to put yourself in a situation where you're more active, you're in better shape, you're having a better lifestyle, put yourself in a situation in a gym setting, in a class gym setting, right? Where people are pushing themselves, people are bettering themselves. It's not a coincidence that you go into a gym and people have abs, right? You're going to adapt. Just like you go into a barbershop enough, you're going to get a haircut. You come into the gym enough, you're going to start to put muscle on. You're going to start to lose weight. You're going to start to get in shape. So it's very important that you put yourself in these environments that are positive for you, not the environments that are negative or tempting for you. So you want to get yourself around positive people and you want to put yourself in positive places. And you're going to start to recognize these patterns, right? I don't party hard, but you go to the club and next thing you know, you're partying. Maybe you're fucking up a little. Now you're waking up late. You're missing work. You lose your job or whatever. It doesn't always have to be like that. Everybody's different. Maybe it works for you. Maybe it's not for you. I don't know, but take these chances. If you do realize that you want to make a change, that is the first part of the process, right? And sometimes we don't want to make a change. Sometimes we want to fuck up and we want to go back to our old ways. There's a romanticism about going out and partying again or eating those cookies and those donuts or whatever. And you should have those things sometimes, but you don't have to constantly put yourself in those situations where you're going to be surrounded by those things. Right? It's the holidays. You bring around something to eat or something. You put yourself, you have it. Unless you're in one of those situations where this is something for you where you're an all in or all out type of individual, which plenty of people have that sort of addiction personality where there is no balance. One is too many, two is never enough. Well, then for those people, you have to understand that with food, especially, or drinks, you're going to be in situation where that stuff's around, right? Family gatherings or holidays or parties, people usually are drinking. Food, you always have to eat. So you have to just be more prepared. You have to prepare yourself mentally that you're going to be in those situations, and you have to bring yourself healthy choices with you so you don't feel like you're starving and you get a case of the fuckets. Or you have to bring yourself to a place where you're comfortable enough to be powerful enough to be around people that are drinking or smoking or eating bad foods, that you can say, you know what, I don't want to be there. But that first 90 days, the 90 before the 90, maybe you withdraw yourself from those situations. Maybe you don't go into those specific places because you understand that part of your process, you end up in those situations, and those are the environments that end up causing you to go back and do things that maybe you're not proud of or things you're trying to avoid. But then you start questioning what happens before that. Well, I'm hungry, or I have the thought that I'm going to eat there or I'm going to drink. Once you have those thoughts and then you feed into that romanticism of the thoughts, you're in trouble. So you have to understand, once you're thinking those things, you have to counteract them with the positive reinforcements, the eating of the healthy foods, the going to the supermarket, the making sure you're setting yourself up for success, not failure. And the same patterns I've come to recognize with my training. Nothing gets you to recognize these patterns more than getting ready to compete, because you really see what it is that tempts you and the power of saying no, no thanks. You don't have to eat that. You don't have to drink that. You can do what you want to do, but usually the factor that's driving you is your why. You want to have a powerful reason why you're doing what you're doing, why you're not eating that, why you're not drinking that, why you're not partying there. Otherwise, why the fuck not? Honestly, like, why not? But if you know why, because this happens and that happens, then I go out, I have a drink, and then the next thing you know, things are good. Then a couple weeks later, I'm waiting for the liquor store every weekend, and then next thing you know, I catch a DUI, and then I lose my wife, and now I'm getting a divorce, and I'm losing the house, and I don't get to see my kid. Crazy shit happens. So depending upon your situation, you figure out what those triggers are before, and the sooner you could nip them in the bud, the better it is. But again, in order to recognize these patterns, you do have to go through them. And for everybody, part of the process is different of trying to get rid of things or adding things into their life. And try to take things day by day, right? That's the most important. If you think about, I can never have a cookie again in my life, you're going to go insane. You're going to just buy a box of cookies and start eating them then and there. But if you say, I'm not going to have a cookie today, and then the next day comes and I'm not going to have a cookie, and then continuously like that, you will lose weight. You will slowly lose your urge for the sugar. But that first 2-3 weeks, that first 90 days is tough, right? It's really hard. So the 90 before the 90 is about allowing yourself to focus on just one singular thing and understand some days I might just want to lie around and not do anything, and that's okay. But eventually, you'll see, you'll wake up the next morning. Maybe you'll want to do it again, and maybe you'll want to do it for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. But then you'll see, you know what? I'm starting to feel good. I want to do other things as well. And you'll start doing those things. And then once you start feeling really good, you'll probably want to go do those bad things again. And that's okay. And you're recognizing the pattern that when I feel really good, I want to do those things again. So when I start feeling really good, what are the steps that I have to take to ensure that I don't do those things? Right? Everybody's process is different. Some people could stop something the first time, never do it again. Some people it takes 2 times. Some people it takes 20 times. Some people it takes 60, 100 times. Some people never change, right? But it's up to you to figure out who you are, what your process is, and as soon as you start, you can make these changes. It's not impossible. I've seen it with myself and recognizing the patterns of students and people over time, right? Because I'm dealing with people for over a dozen years in the industry, fitness, health, wellness, and I see the patterns and just friends and family. You see the patterns of ups and downs, especially with the gym every day. Noticing, and I look at the numbers, you see when the drop off is, when the comeback is, you see the seasonal patterns, you see the patterns within the people within the industry, and you start to recognize when things are going to happen, and you start to counterbalance those changes by understanding up around this time of the year this happens, or when it gets cold out people tend to eat more. When it's warmer, people want to be out more and exercising and living a healthier lifestyle. So the recognizing of the patterns, but it takes time to build this data and to understand the patterns, and you have to keep your eye open for them. Otherwise, you just live life and things just keep on happening. But for yourself, you will recognize the patterns because we don't lie to ourselves. At first, you'll start saying, oh, this, that, the other. You have to understand when these patterns are happening, and then you will be able to make those changes. Like, it's up to you. Ultimately, nobody's going to make the changes for you except you. And maybe it's not for you. Maybe life is so great, so grand. You're so happy. You don't want to make any changes. Things are going great. You party every weekend. Everything's good. You're making money. Everything's great. That's awesome. I tip my hat to you. That's the lifestyle. That's a great lifestyle if that's working for you. If it's working for you, keep on rocking it. If it's not, try to come up with part of the process. Change your process. Start the process. And like I said, it doesn't only have to be for drugs or alcohol. This is also for food, relationships, anything, being more active, lifestyle change, any area of your life that you want to make a change in, you can. You're more powerful than you even know. It's up to you. The key for me, and that I've recognized with the people, is putting yourself in positive places where good things can happen, staying out of those negative environments where bad things are going to happen. It's going to be harder for you to do the right thing, and having a clear vision of what you want and not beating yourself up too much when it doesn't happen, because chances are things don't happen in 90 days just like that. Things don't happen in a year. Things don't happen in 2-3 years. They can, but it usually takes 5 years to recognize the patterns, 10 years to make it happen. Like, it really takes time, and you have to be patient, and you can figure it out, or it's not for you. And yeah, so this is the Not For You podcast. I'll be talking about life, everything, but the 90 before the 90, I just wanted to put that out there, that this is a great time for you to start thinking about making those changes of what you want to accomplish during that 90 days and what that big thing in your life that you want to fix is, and starting that in the preseason, so that by the time you start the season, you're feeling fresh, good, and ready to go. And expect that first month of making those big changes to not be the most fun. Don't expect all of a sudden for your life to do this giant 180 and change. Sure, maybe it will, but chances are it won't. Chances are it's going to take time, but time's all we got. So take your time. Don't beat yourself up. recognize the patterns when you start making your mistakes or whatever it is that you're doing or having those negative thoughts, and try to counterbalance them with positive things. There are going to be nights, lonely, cold, late nights where you feel like, what am I doing? You don't have to do anything. Just stay in bed, sleep it off, and wait till the next day. But eventually, you will start to feel good again once your body starts to get used to these new changes and not feeding yourself those chemicals of sweets, of drinks, of smokes, of whatever it is that you're trying to get rid of. Then your brain will all of a sudden get back to normal and you'll be able to feel good again and start taking care of your the things you want to take care of. But once you feel good again, like I said, that can also be a trap to going back to the old ways, because you change the old ways because maybe it's not working for you. It makes you feel shitty, right? It's like the hangover. You drink and like, I'll never drink again. Then a couple weeks later, you feel good and you want to have a drink. So you have to recognize that when you feel good, that could also be a sign of, when I start to feel really good like this, I feel so good that I want to go back to my old ways. I feel like I deserved it. I feel like I earned it. I'm not saying not to feel good. I'm saying when you feel good like that, reward yourself in new ways, create new patterns, things that are positive for you. I feel so good. I want to go to the gym. I feel so good. I want to go for a run. I feel so good. I want to go see loved ones that I haven't seen in a while. And I want to go. I feel so good. I want to go down to the food shelter and help feed the home, whatever it is. When you're feeling that good, do things that are going to make you feel even better. And like I was saying just now, go see other people. That's a major key also. Whenever we focus on ourselves, specifically just us, woes me, I this, I that. You want to help others. Living is about giving. If you can help others and take the focus off of yourself, this will help you to not be stuck in your own head so much. When you're helping others, when you're focusing on others, you don't have time to think about how you're not doing this or how you want to do that or all the things that are going wrong. So, the best way to get out of your own funk is to give it forward, to help others. That for me has been really, really big. And Lori Fit University has been a huge help for me. When I'm at work here and I'm helping teach others and I'm helping people with their striking and their stuff, I notice, or jujitsu, I notice, wow, I'm not worrying about me or what I have or what I don't have. I'm feeling good helping this other individual. And it's not till you get home from work when you're by yourself in your room or just on the computer looking at what everybody else has, comparing yourself, that you feel less than or down. But when you're helping others, it's very hard to feel down. I don't feel down when I'm helping others at all. So that's been a really big epiphany for myself, is that living is about giving. When you're giving and helping others, it makes you take that focus off of yourself. And when you're not focusing on yourself, you're not feeling all that, looking at yourself under a microscope and seeing all your flaws and not necessarily putting the microscope on all the things that you're doing well. We tend to look at the dark, not the light. And the dark is powerful, but when you focus on the light, it's way more powerful. Just like the Jedi say, yes, the dark side is powerful, easier to obtain, but the light is a stronger force, harder to get to, but much stronger force. And that's what you want to do. You want to get to the light. You want to look to where there are others helping others. That's where you'll find it. Not where there are selfish people that only want to take and focus on themselves. That's going to get to the dark spots. It's not easy. I don't have all the answers. I don't know anybody that does. Whoever says they do is full of absolute dog shit. They're full of shit, you know? But just try to be better day by day. And there's no guarantees. This life is a crazy, crazy place, crazy world. But you got to think that we get to live this life. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to go to the gym. We don't have to go to work. We don't have to. We get to. We get to wake up in the morning, take advantage of the situation we're in, and get to do these things. The key is focusing on the big thing in your life, if you have one, that you want to make a change in, and not beating yourself up in that initial 90 days. That's what the preseason, that's what the 90 before the 90 is all about. It's about getting that clarity, allowing yourself to make mistakes so you can see the patterns and recognize them and start to really tighten up the ship. So by the time the 90 starts on April 1st, you're ready to rock and roll. You feel like you have good momentum. You're feeling good. You have your pattern recognitions and you're ready to go. It doesn't mean that you won't mess up during the 90. There's no guarantees, right? Anything could happen. Injuries, life, things can happen. We're just trying to prepare ourselves for when they do, because it's an inevitable that they will. It's an inevitability that things will happen. People will come in and out of your life. People will pass away. Money will come and go. The sun will shine, and there will be rainy days. There will be nights. There will be days. There will be cold. There will be hot. There will be all these things. The seasons will change. But what you have to do, what we all have to do, or don't have to do, maybe it's not for you. But what I find I have to do is figure out ways to deal with those cold nights, to figure out ways to deal with those blazing hot, sunny days, to just figure out a way to figure myself out better and what works for me and what doesn't work. And what worked when you were 20 might not work when you're 30. And what works when you're 30 may not work when you're 40. Everything's constantly changing. It's up to you to be the guidance of yourself, because nobody's going to know you better than you. You have to pick up on your patterns and you have to say, you know what? This was working for me then, but now I got this going on and I need to make some changes. And when you make the changes and you see that maybe this isn't working anymore, I really miss this, bring some of that back into your life. And that's what you got to do. That's what the 90 before the 90 is all about. So don't beat yourself up too much, because God knows nobody can beat yourself up worse than you. I've fought everybody. I trained with so many different people, and I could survive 15, 20 minutes, a half an hour rolling or fighting with anybody. But that other 23 hours, nobody can beat me up worse than I can beat up myself. Do you know what? I learned how to defend myself as well against myself. And I focus on the light. I focus on the things that I am doing well, not the things that I'm doing wrong. And I see those things and I start to go towards the light, because it's tough out there with what's going on nowadays. I mean, I'm sure these things have always been going on, but everything's at the forefront now, on the news, on our phones, on the internet, on the computers. Everything nowadays always seems like doom and gloom. And you have to kind of distance yourself with that, because you can fall into that. What's the point? What does it matter? Everything's going to shit anyway. I might as well this. But you want to enjoy this journey, this time that we have here, because it's not a long time. If you look at the history of the earth, 100 years, if we're able to make it that long, isn't that long of a time in the whole spectrum of time and space. So try to make your journey, your life, as enjoyable as possible. It's hard. It's not easy, but the first step is starting the process of recognizing what's working for you, what's not, and slowly eliminating the things that are not, and not beating yourself up when it's a slow elimination process and you have those down days. If you didn't have those down days, you wouldn't be a human being. It's fine. Rest it out. Lie in bed. Pull the covers over your head. Just do the bare minimum. You have to at the beginning. Take your shower, brush your teeth, comb your hair, go back to bed. But you're starting the process. Don't beat yourself up too much. You're your best advocate, and you're the only person that's going to fight for you tooth and nail. So I hope you like this podcast. I hope it motivated you to get ready for the 90-day challenge starting April 1st. This is officially January 2nd, the 90 before the 90. And maybe it is, maybe it's not for you. You'll never know until you give it a try. Hopefully, you get with it. If you're interested in it and you're around the neighborhood, Long Island, New York, check us out, lauriefit.com. First class is always free. I want to start to build an online community as well. This way, no matter where you are, you can always be part of that positive community instead of a negative one that might be pulling you down or a place that you don't want to be. I want to give you guys a positive space to always be a part of. With that said, I hope you enjoyed it. Make these changes, or maybe it's not for you.